My fellow hunter, you think you chose your main weapon. You didn't. Your weapon chose you. Or more accurately, your weapon revealed who you already were. Every hunter who picks up greatsword thinks they're doing it for the damage. Every longsword main swears it's about the counters. Every hunting horn user claims they're just supporting the team. Bullshit! Your weapon is a personality test you didn't realize you were taking. And after 20 years of hunting since the PS2 era, watching hundreds of hunters, I can tell you exactly who you are based on what's in your hands. So, let's get into it. This is Monster Hunter Wilds specific, and I'm not holding back. Great Sword. Great Sword is the poster child of Monster Hunter, and you know it. You're the Unga Bunga. You're the caveman. You're the hunter who saw the biggest sword in the game and said, that's one. You don't do combos. You don't do complexity. You press one button really, really hard. Focus mode tracking. You're using it to line up true charge slashes while the monster's mid-roar. While everyone else is panicking about the screaming monster. You're standing there, sword charging, waiting for that 3-second window. Your entire existence is patience followed by violence. You've carted holding a charge because you saw the monster telegraph an attack. You knew it was coming and you still committed. Because stopping mid-charge means admitting you read it wrong. Great sword mains don't admit mistakes. They cart with conviction. You've also mounted monsters just to get your full charge off during the knockdown. That's not optimal. That's not necessary. You just needed everyone to see that 1,500 damage number pop. But here's the thing. You've mastered the hardest discipline in Monster Hunter. Perfect timing. One button, perfect execution. No safety net, no repositioning tool. Just you, reading the monster, committing fully. You're either the MVP who ended the hunt in 7 minutes, or you triple carted and blamed bad hitboxes. There's no in-between. That's why you're the poster child. Longsword, you're the main character in your anime. That you're writing during the hunt. That helm splitter isn't DPS optimization. That's your finishing move. You've got a mental AMV playing in your head with your hunter in slow motion, and you're trying to recreate it frame by frame. Focus mode makes your counters even easier now, and somehow you're still finding ways to foresight slash into attacks that don't exist yet. You're not reading the monster. You're reading the future. You're built different. Let's address it. You've hit more teammates than any other weapon in Wilds. The tail is right there. Your job is literally the tail, but the head has better hit zones. Your spirit gauge needs charging, and that helm splitter would look so badass right now. You know everyone's running shock absorber. You've seen the PSAs. You still don't care because you're not here to be a team player. You're here to look cool doing it. But the dirty secret, you're cracked. Those frame perfect foresight counters. That spirit gauge management where your red gauge the entire fight. That's not luck. That's hundreds of hours turning Monster Hunter into a rhythm game where you're hitting every beat. Long sword mains are anime protagonists. With the skill to back it up, you're just exhausting to hunt with. Sword and shield, you're the most underestimated hunter in Monster Hunter. And you stopped caring about proving it years ago. Everyone sees your weapon and thinks beginner. Small sword, tiny shield. Must be simple. Those people have never seen Perfect Rush. They don't know you can use items without sheathing. They don't know you're mobile enough to punish openings they don't even recognize exist. While Great Sword is winding up true charged slash number 4. You've already applied poison, broken 2 parts, and mounted the monster twice. You don't need big numbers. You don't need flashy moves. You need efficiency. And Sword and Shield is the most efficient weapon in Wilds when played correctly. Here's what makes you different. You don't argue with people about your weapon anymore. Someone says SNS is for beginners. You nod. Let them think that. Let them underestimate you. Because when the hunt ends, you've got more part breaks, more status applications, more consistent DPS, uptime than the flashy weapons. And you didn't cart once. You're not here to look cool. You're here to get the job done and carve before anyone checks the numbers. Sword and Shield mains are quiet professionals. No ego, just results. And you wouldn't have it any other way. Dual blades. You've got the attention span of a caffeinated ferret, and you've weaponized it. You don't walk. You don't position carefully. You see the monster. You press demon mode, and you become a blender. Your controller's crying. Your stamina bar's empty. The monster's leg is tenderized. You're having the time of your life. Standing still is a personal failure. Sheathing your weapons feels illegal. You've got 2 swords, which means twice the work, and you're not stopping until something dies. Let's be real, you've carted mid-combo because you physically couldn't stop pressing buttons. The monster telegraphed a tail whip. You saw it. You knew you should dodge, but your blades were in archdemon mode. You were hitting every weak point, and stopping felt wrong. You'd rather cart dealing damage than survive doing nothing. You've also definitely used demon flight at the worst possible time, launched yourself at the monster's face, and gotten swatted midair like a mosquito. You knew it was coming. You did it anyway. But here's why. Dual Blade's mains are terrifying. You've turned aggression into a science. While everyone's spacing, reading patterns, playing safe, you're in the monster's personal space. The entire hunt, your damage uptime is 90%. You've memorized every single opening because you need every opening. You don't hunt monsters. You pressure them into mistakes. And when you cart, you don't get discouraged. You get faster. Hammer mains have solved Monster Hunter with one question. Have you tried hitting it in the face? That's it. That's your entire build. Monster too fast. Bonk the head until it falls over. Monster too tanky. Bonk harder. Team needs support. You are support. You just stunned it. Now everyone attack. Combos? Fuck combos. You charge your hammer and go bonking. Resource management. Your resources. How close am I to the head? Optimal DPS rotations. You rotate the hammer over your head and slam it down. That's the rotation. Focus mode lets you track heads even better now, which is perfect because you were already ignoring every other body part anyway. You don't optimize around buffs or elemental matchups. You optimize around how quickly can I reach the head and start bonking. That's it. That's the build. But let's be clear, hammer mains are the backbone of multiplayer. You know your job. You do your job. Every single time. Head breaks, yours. Stuns, yours. KOs that create free damage windows, all you. You're not fancy. You're not complicated. You walked into Monster Hunter, saw a hammer, said, this will do, and became the most consistent hunter in every team you join. Hammer mains are simple. Simple works. Simple wins. Hunting Horn. You're all liars. Every single Hunting Horn main says they picked it to support the team. You say you're just trying to help. You act like it's about musical passion and selfless teamwork. Absolute bullshit. You picked Hunting Horn because you're a hipster who needed everyone to know you're different. Oh, you play longsword? How original. I play the rarest weapon in the game. Yes, it requires more game knowledge. Yes, the optimal song rotation is complicated. No, you wouldn't understand. You're that hunter. You bring up playing horn in every conversation. You've memorized more melodies than some people have combos. Someone says good buffs, and you internally glow while externally deflecting with, oh, it's nothing, just doing my part. You live for that acknowledgement. But here's the truth you won't say out loud. Hunting Horn mains are elite. You're doing everything Hammer does. Head breaks, KOs, stuns, while simultaneously maintaining attack up, defense up, sonic barrier, and 3 other buffs, reading the fight well enough to know which melodies to prioritize, and still matching DPS with dedicated damage dealers. You're not supporting the team, you're carrying while making it look casual. Hunting Horn mains are the most skilled players in Monster Hunter, pretending they're just there to help. And here's what you won't admit. Everyone loves you, and you're dooting, and you know it. Every lobby you join, people are relieved. Every hunt, someone thanks you for buffs. You act humble, but inside, you're glowing, because you're the most wanted weapon in multiplayer, and you've earned every bit of that respect. You're not fooling anyone. We see you. We know what you're doing, and we're grateful you're too modest to admit how good you actually are. Lance, you don't dodge, you block, and there's a fucking difference. You are the wall, not like a wall, not playing as a wall. You are the wall. That's not metaphor. That's your actual role. While everyone else is panic rolling, sprint dodging, repositioning, you're walking forward with a shield the size of a car and a poker stick that says, I'm not leaving. You're the immovable object, the unstoppable force. You see a charging massive monster and think, finally, something worth blocking. You don't react to attacks. You counter them. You don't chase monsters. You corner them. You don't panic when surrounded. You power guard, absorb every hit, and counter thrust everything that thought it was safe. Every other weapon is gambling, hoping the dodge iframes work, praying the counter timing lands, running when things get bad. Not you. You chose to stand there. That raw, blocked. That charge, blocked. That unblockable attack everyone's running from. You'll guard it and counter thrust through your shield anyway. You've also absolutely ignored mechanics because I can just block it. Monster has a complex phase transition. You blocked it. Monster has a special gimmick attack. Blocked. Tutorial says, dodge this. Blocked. Lance mains don't learn mechanics. You overrule them. But here's what makes you legendary. You're in complete control. Every single moment. You're not reacting. You're dictating. The monster isn't hunting you. You're hunting it. And you haven't moved from this spot in 3 minutes. Lance mains have main character energy without the ego. You're just there, in the monster's face. Every hunt, refusing to move. You don't fear monsters. Monsters learn to fear you. Gunlance. You looked at Lance and said, this is great, but what if explosions? You're not here for mobility. You're not here for combos. You're here to plant your feet, point your lance cannon at the monster's face, and turn sharpness loss into a suggestion you politely ignore. Shells don't care about hit zones. Shells don't care about element. Shells don't care about the monster's 0.3 times defense modifier on that hardened zone everyone avoids. Boom! Same damage everywhere. Gunlance mains read motion values and elemental weaknesses and decided all that shit was too complicated. You've simplified Monster Hunter. How many explosions fit in this opening? Full burst into Wormstake. Full blast into multi-Wormstake. Full blast. That's not a combo. That's you announcing your presence. The monster will acknowledge you exist. But here's what makes Gunlance special. You're completely self-sufficient. You don't need crits. You don't need buffs. You don't optimize around other players. You've got shells, a shield, and complete disregard for conventional damage calculations. While everyone else is building around weakness, exploit, and attack boost, you're just adding artillery and calling it a day. You're not playing Monster Hunter. You're playing Artillery Simulator. And the monster's learning what that means. Switch Axe. Switch Axe mains are violence addicts who found a weapon that rewards their worst impulses. You didn't pick Switch Axe for strategy. You picked it because it has 2 modes, and one of them has an explosion you can detonate inside the monster's skull. You're the hunter who sees element discharge and thinks, yes, I'm putting that directly on its face, and if I get launched, worth it. Axe mode, that's just the travel form. Sword mode, that's when the hunt actually starts. And when your gauge is full, and you mount the monster's head for a full element discharge directly into its brain. That's not tactics. That's barely controlled chaos. You've been launched mid-element discharge. The monster did its escape move. You held on anyway and got thrown into a wall at terminal velocity. You've carted because your sword gauge ran out at the worst time, and you were stuck in axe mode with your dick in your hand and no escape options. You've committed to attacks you knew were unsafe because just one more hit and I can switch to sword mode. Switch Axe is the weapon equivalent of I'm about to do something stupid. Watch this. But here's why you're terrifying. You've learned to surf that chaos. You know exactly how long sword mode lasts. You know when to pull the ripcord. You know which openings are big enough for full discharges and which ones are traps. You're not reckless. You're calculated aggression wrapped in explosions. And when you pull off that perfect element discharge, that's not luck. That's commitment paying off. Charge blade. You looked at sword and shield and thought, I need a bigger sword, a bigger shield, and I need to hit harder to be satisfied. And you got all 3, plus file management, guard points, 2 modes, and a 7-step damage rotation. Charge Blade is the most complex weapon in Monster Hunter. The community agrees, you agree, and you're proud of it. That's the point. Charge Sword, store files. Transfer to Shield. Charge Shield, build gauge. Morph to Axe. Wait for opening. SAED. That's your basic loop, and it's already more steps than most weapons have total. Someone asks about your weapon choice, and you light up. Guard points, you can explain those. SAED versus Savage Axe. You've got opinions. File management. That's muscle memory now. You've practiced this enough that the complexity is the appeal. Here's what you won't admit. You've whiffed SAEDs. That massive attack where all your files explode at once. The monster moved. You committed anyway. You hit dirt, stood there in recovery frames, and questioned every decision that led you to this weapon. But when you don't whiff, when you guard point into perfect SAED, into part, break, into file, detonation. That's the mastery everyone else is too intimidated to learn. That's why you picked the most complex weapon in the game. Not despite the complexity, because of it. Insect Glaive. You're playing a different game than everyone else. Floor is lava. That's not a childhood game anymore. That's your religion. The ground is for people who don't have a giant bug and a stick that launches them into the air. You're not fighting on the ground. You're above it all, literally. While we're fighting the monster on the ground like normal hunters, you're auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. You're not dodging attacks. You're vaulting over them. The monster tried to hit you, but you were doing a backflip over its head because gravity is a suggestion. You've mounted the monster 6 times this hunt. 6. That's not optimal. That's not efficient. You're just showing off at this point. Let's be honest. You don't know what your kinsect buffs actually do. You know red is required. Orange is probably good. White, sure, collect it. But if someone asked you to explain the exact buff effects without checking the menu, you'd panic. You're too busy being airborne to read tooltips. You've also carted mid-air because you vault dodged at the wrong time. The monster looked up and you got swatted out of the sky like a fly. You've run out of stamina while helicopter spinning and dropped like a rock into the monster's AoE attack. But here's what makes Insect Glaive mains special. You've mastered 3-dimensional combat while everyone else is locked to the ground. You're playing a completely different angle game. You've got reach nobody can match. You've got mobility nobody can counter. You're not the highest DPS. You're not the most efficient. But when you mount that monster for the 5th time in 6 minutes and everyone's typing, bro, stop mounting, you're not stopping because you're not here to be optimal. You're here to fly and you're going to keep flying. Bow mains are control freaks with anxiety disorders. And you've turned both into a playstyle. You're not just fighting the monster. You're managing stamina, charge levels, dragon piercer timing, arc shot placement, coating rotations, optimal distance, and elemental matchups, all while maintaining constant DPS and avoiding every attack because your defense stat is a fucking suggestion. You've got no shield, no armor, nothing between you and instant death, except your ability to read telegraphs and dodge with 2 frames of mercy. And you decided this was fine. Perfect, even. You see Charge Blade mains managing files and think, that's cute. I'm managing 6 resources simultaneously while never stopping damage output. You've carted because you were tunneling on charge shots and didn't notice the monster winding up. You've run out of stamina mid-dodge and stood there like a deer in headlights. You've brought power coating to an elemental matchup and spent 12 minutes doing chip damage because swapping would mean admitting you prepped wrong. But when you don't fuck up, when you're at critical distance, max charge, dragon piercer connecting on a weak point, power coating active, stamina managed perfectly, never getting touched. You're the highest DPS in the game, period. Bowmains are perfectionists who turned Monster Hunter into a rhythm game where one missed input means death, and you wouldn't have it any other way, because anything less than perfect feels like failure. Light Bowgun. You're the smartest hunter in the lobby, and you make sure nobody forgets it. You looked at melee and said, why would I go near the thing that kills people? You looked at heavy bowgun and said, why would I sacrifice mobility when I can have damage and safety. You pick light bowgun because you're not here to prove anything. You're here to exploit weaknesses, apply status effects, and never get hit because you're playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. You bring paralysis ammo, sleep ammo, poison ammo, sticky ammo, at least 4 coating types, because you're not just dealing damage, you're controlling the fight. Monster keeps moving, sticky ammo to the face, stunned, team needs a break, sleep ammo, everyone heal, monsters enraged, paralysis. Now it's not. You're not fighting the monster, you're managing it like a project with a deadline. You've also run out of ammo mid-fight because you didn't bring enough combines. You've been crafting ammo mid-combat and got hit because you were in the menu. You've brought the wrong ammo loadout and spent 15 minutes as a mobile palico with a water gun. But when you don't fuck up prep, when you've got the right ammo, the right mods, the right coatings, perfect positioning, constant status applications, while maintaining DPS, while never getting touched, you're not good at Monster Hunter. You're playing a different game everyone else doesn't have access to. And you're winning heavy bowgun. You're a siege weapon with legs, and you're fine with that. You looked at every weapon and said, I'm going to delete this monster from the next area code. Mobility? Fuck mobility. You've got a built-in shield now with auto guard. Positioning? You don't position, you set up. You plant your feet, aim at a weak point, and unload magazine after magazine into the same spot until the monster's hit zone softens from repeated trauma. Wyvern heart, sustained damage, wyvern counter, burst damage, with perfect guard timing, sticky ammo, mini nukes. You've got options and every single one is violent. You've absolutely fired cluster bombs with teammates near the blast radius. You saw them, you calculated the risk, you fired anyway, because that was a damage window, and you don't waste damage windows for things like team safety and basic human decency. Sure, they might take a bit of chip damage, but that monster's taking way more. You've been the last one to every monster position change because you're slow as hell. You've carted because you couldn't dodge in time, and even autoguard couldn't save you. You've run out of ammo and stood there holding a very expensive paperweight while everyone else finished the hunt. You've stayed planted in dangerous positions because you had the perfect angle. The monster turned towards you, everyone screaming to move. But you're mid-magazine, and that weak point is right there. You'll reposition when you're done shooting, or when you cart, whichever comes first. But here's the truth. When damage numbers pop at the end of the hunt, you're in the running for top damage. Usually, you win it. Because while everyone else was dodging, repositioning, playing it safe, you were shooting. And you're going to keep shooting until either the monster dies or you run out of ammo. It's usually the monster. Heavy bowgun mains don't hunt monsters. You lay siege to them, and you wouldn't change a single fucking thing. My fellow hunter, every weapon is viable. Every weapon can solo every monster. Every weapon has speedrunners, making the rest of us look like amateurs. But your weapon isn't just a tool. It's how you approach problems. Great sword mains commit fully or not at all. Sword and shield mains are efficient perfectionists. Hunting horn mains are skilled players cosplaying as supports. Lance mains refuse to move and make it work. 14 weapons, 14 personalities. And somehow, when we load into multiplayer, we make it work. The great sword hitting like a freight train. The light bowgun controlling the fight. The lance that won't move. The insect glaive doing backflips nobody asked for. That's not chaos. That's teamwork. Your weapon shows who you are. The hunt proves what you're capable of. If your weapon description hit too close to home, carve that like button. Let's get this to other hunters who need to feel called out. And if you're hungry for more Monster Hunter Wilds content, hungrier than a devil joe, consider subscribing. I let my subscribers vote on what I create next, and I drop new Wilds videos like this weekly. My fellow hunter, quest cleared. This is the InZane Hunter. Now get out there and prove your weapon choice right.